Welcome to the Tie-In Podcast, where we explore real-world learning and how Indiana educators are connecting students to career pathways. I'm Adam Kashner, your host today, and today we are joined by Dr. Steve Rogers, the director of Walker Career Center. Steve participated in Tie-In and toured 4 industry sites across Indiana. Today we will dive into those experiences and how they're shaping student opportunities back at his school. So, Steve, before we dig into the visits, can you tell us a little bit about exactly what Tie-In is and what drew you to the experience?
Sure. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, Tie-In was designed by the state of Indiana to get teachers and school personnel out of their classroom and into industry. With the big push for work-based learning for students, especially at the high school level, they really want teachers to understand what jobs are out there, what industry is looking for their students. So the state of Indiana developed a program. It allowed for teachers to come out and experience different work events. So they're sponsoring teachers to get out of the classroom, especially obviously in the summer, on breaks, get out, experience industry, see what their local communities and other communities have for jobs, careers, where they can use their skill sets.
And is there a particular part of that? It sounds like it's not your typical professional development, which can be a lot of sit and get and, very, very structured learning throughout the day. Is part of that what drew you to the experience about why you wanted to do Tie-In?
As a director of a career center, I just always try and find out what our students need, what do our programs need to offer to our kids? What are the outcomes available? What are the jobs out there? It was not a traditional sit and get PD session that normally occurs in many school settings. It was a chance for myself just to get out there and learn a little bit. But we were all over the place and just hands on, get to be able to experience what it is to work in this environment. What do people do here? What jobs are available? What skill sets do kids need? And so that really drew me to it, just to be able to see what is out there. And I'll be quite honest, we do that a lot in the Career Center anyway. We're tied to industry in all of our programs. So this was just an opportunity for me to kind of see other programs that I maybe normally don't get out and see. So.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really cool experience. You can get a lot from that. Let's dive into the first visit. You went to Henry County REMC. First of all, tell us what REMC is and what stood out to you about that visit.
So Henry County RMC is an electrical co-op, just like many other state co-ops for electrical. In Indiana, it's our power company. But in smaller counties, the co-ops go together. Basically, I knew nothing about small town electrical. I've been a big city kid my whole life, so
yeah.
I didn't know that. What was cool about it, just figuring out how electricity is run in smaller communities. Obviously, big for-profit power companies don't want to put line out to a small farm. It's not cost effective for them to just run one power line out to a farm, but obviously that farm needs power. Mm-hmm. And so that's where this Henry County RMEC, or all the others in the state, I think there was 33 other co-ops in the state that do the same type of work. So that was kind of interesting, learning all about the power grid. They definitely showed us what they used to do, which was push pins on a big map in a room, to what they do today, which is all computerized. This whole room, it looks like an NFL draft room. It's this big board with the map, and they have all these icons on it, and everything is done through all the technical systems. So, but it really showcased the many jobs that are available in just their, I think they had about 90 employees total, but they varied the range of employment, right? So you've got somebody that's a customer service representative in their entryway, taking phone calls from my power's out, or my bill is wrong, or stuff like that, all the way to the techs and the line, men and women out doing that repair or putting in the new line, or maintaining their trucks, right? The whole variety of job opportunities in their one business. It really spoke to me, when you think about employment. A lot of our students are focused on, I want to do this, right? I want to be an accountant. Well, Henry County RMEC had accountants, right? They're doing bills, they're paying, books. So they had 4 people in their finance department, and they're doing all of that work. And so that's a solid career in accounting, but it's not, one of the big 4 firms. It's not, maybe what you thought of, but it's definitely a highly skilled, highly paid position in a community that maybe you want to live in, right? So that was really cool to see. I didn't know anything about the electrical system in terms of that, so that was kind of an eye-opening experience. I kind of had learned some prior knowledge to the union side of that, because they're kind of contracting out to the union to do the actual wire installation part. They're kind of a liaison between the union side of electrical distribution and the actual linemen are union employees, but everybody else is a Henry County RMEC employee. So it was kind of a dynamic there. We work a lot with the unions in a lot of our trades here at Walker, so it had some experience there, but not on the other side. So that was interesting.
Well, Henry County is fairly drivable. It's not too bad. Do you foresee any potential shadow opportunities or internship opportunities for students that might be interested in that?
Yeah, so Newcastle was, about 45 minutes away. I'm not sure that they're open necessarily for a trades intern necessarily. That's definitely through the union side of it. So we can facilitate students, getting union exposure through the lineman side if we wanted to do that route. Mm-hmm. But for students that we service in Hancock County and Greenfield, especially Greenfield, Newval, Mount Vernon, towards eastern Hancock there, they would potentially be open to some customer service rep type work, some accounting type work, some office experiences, and those are valuable. So it might be a little far on the range distance wise for some of our MSD Warren students, just for transportation reasons, but they're definitely open. One of the things that the state is looking for when they offer companies into this tie-in program is they have to be willing to support students in some capacity. So definitely some potential there. I think we would. What I took away too was I need to work to continue to build that partnership with AES Indiana here locally in Marion County.
Sure.
Yeah.
So your next site visit, a little more in-house. What we have here, we have CCMA, we have CNA. You've seen a lot more of the nursing world, with our programs here. So at Ascension St. Vincent, did anything there kind of expand your perspective? How did it change how you look at how those programs are run, and how can we make some changes potentially here to make sure that we are providing the proper programs for our students?
Yeah, that was kind of the intent. I really wanted to. I have visited locally with community health, and so this was a opportunity to visit with Ascension St. Vincent, and I love that we do CNA and CCMA and dental, and there are a ton of pathways for students interested in nursing, medical assisting, in a medical facility, right? So they took us through a lot of the different pathways from, starting at a CNA level or a patient care tech level, and working all the way through their system to literally a physician's assistant or a doctor. Like, there's pathways through pretty much the whole entire health field, which is really well done for them, right? The health industry has really figured out how to take an entry level position and truly generate their own, their own capacity through building that person up. Here, you want to do this, here's the next step. Here, you want to do this, here's the next step. And Ascension was no different in that regard. They offer tuition, reimbursement and assistance, and are willing to put the time and effort in to take that entry level position through the whole nursing side. What I found fascinating, and I learned a lot about on this trip, was the non-nursing jobs in a hospital. We spent some time in sterile processing. I'd never been in sterile processing. They put us all in the gowns and the booties, and we had to go in, and that was fun because processing medical supplies and sterilizing them is a job. It's a full-time job, but it's very, start at the ground level, and they work you through different certifications in that industry to get certified, and then you can make even more money. And their techs start at $16 to $18 an hour for no skill. I mean, that's straight off the street, just willing to work. And now you're 2 years in, you're making $25 an hour with potential to move up as a shift manager or department manager or stuff like that. Bigger hospitals, more pay. There's a lot of room for advancement, even in a what we call a no certification kind of pathway there.
Healthcare adjacent.
Yeah, definitely. So, and they have as many jobs in the non-medical jobs. If you think about any sort of medical facility, I was like, yeah, this is gonna, CMA and CCNA and all that. They have food service, is one of their biggest issues, finding health in janitor work, custodial work, food service, and it's all of the areas that
marketing and promotion.
Yeah, and all the ways.
Outreach, yeah.
If you think about MSD Warren, we struggle with custodial and food service, and these are jobs. They are jobs. People need to work those jobs. We need to provide those services for, in our case, our students. In this case, it was the patients, and so they have a ton of jobs in that area as well, which I thought was, sometimes you forget that they're a little micro city within themselves. They have to do everything in house, for sanitary reasons, and definitely, it was fascinating. So that was an interesting take on all of that. So we got to see. We also went into respiratory areas. They talked to us about respiratory techs, and again, they were just trying to show the different pathways that isn't necessarily nursing, but is tangentially patient care. So that was interesting too. The last time I had been in St. Vincent, Ascension St. Vincent, I was my kids were born there. So that was 18 years ago. So
it been a minute.
It had been a few days. So it was good to see that they're still evolving for sure.
Now, I remember when I was a student and meeting with potential companies and industries, deciding what we were going to do or what I was going to do. I remember some industries and some companies being very, inclusive and wanting to engage with high school students. And I remember some not so much. How do you view the healthcare field? Does it feel like they are apt to want to work with high school level programs like ones we have here at Walker?
I think for the most part, yes. I think there's some legality with 16-year-olds in certain spaces that is the holdup in a lot of our programs. Obviously the 18-year-old student that can get on job sites and has a little bit more flexibility legally is the holdup in many cases. But I did feel like a genuine encouragement. Ascension St. Vincent was all about, that student that isn't sure. They will take any 16-year-old if you make the connection to come job shadow. They encouraged it. We had a panel discussion with about 10 different employees that had various roles throughout the Ascension St. Vincent, from the president to like a supply tech. And it was really like, if you're not sure, reach out and go shadow for 3 or 4 hours. They love shadows because you can just follow along. You're not really interfering in anything, but you can see what's going on. Oh, that looks interesting. Or, you know what, I like that. Like, if you're not sure, go do 5 shadows, for 3 or 4 hours each at different areas of the hospital, and you'd be amazed at what you would see. And then it's much easier to know, oh, I really think respiratory might be my way. I should start with maybe I should start with a CNA, because I do need some medical background there. You know what, I think, whatever that is, so
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was fascinating that they really encourage that, but their structure is more designed for that 18-year-old, and then that transition to like 22 space. They do a lot more in that space because of legal reasons more than anything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of value in those shadow opportunities.
Ton of value, and I could see a ton of our students really connecting in some level. I know we do formal, when we take kids out in medical facilities where they're working on clinical hours. So, I mean, it's not like kids can't get into hospital spaces. It just takes a little bit more connection and time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope you appreciate this clunky segue as we go to our next site visitation. But obviously hospitals use a lot of plastic. So your next site was Plastic Recycling, Inc.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? It sounds like their focus is on sustainability. Obviously, a lot of our programs are related to manufacturing and industry. How does Plastic Recycling, Inc. fit into that? And what did you take away from that visit?
Plastic, I wasn't sure what to expect when I went there. It's kind of, you think recycling, but do you really know what that is, right? And so I tell you what, that visit was amazing, for the sense that I walked into this huge facility on the west side, and I'm like, what are we going to do today? And we spent the all day like really digging into all of the different material sciences and all the different things that they actually recycle, how they recycle it, and what it's used for, and I walked away blown away. As a former engineering teacher, this was the tour I was kind of geeking out, because I remember in class I used to do this project. It was called a material sorter, and I would challenge students to take a handful of materials, quote unquote, which were marbles, and have to sort them right electronically. So they'd have aluminum marble, a steel marble, a wood marble, a plastic marble, and then a couple different colored glass marbles, and they'd have to like sort these materials. Well, that's essentially what they're doing there, right? They're not quite on the front end. They're not a material sorter, in the sense that their materials that they get donated to them or they're purchasing are they're I forget what they call MRFs. They're called MRFs. They're bundles of this type of plastic or that type of plastic from an actual recycling center. So material leaves your house, goes to a place, and it gets sorted. So all the milk jugs go here, and all the brown bottles go there, etc. They may be buying the bundles of milk jugs and bringing them to their facility, and then breaking it down and combining it with other ingredients from different things they've recycled to extrude this type of plastic or that type of plastic. So they're kind of taking that middle waste and combining it together. What's fascinating too is that company was basically started by their founder, who just was one day sitting and talking with a guy and was like, yeah, I don't know. Can you take all this material that they were like cutting out? They were printing something in plastic, and they were leaving all these chips on the floor, and they didn't know what to do with it, and they were just gonna like throw it away. And he's like, "Do you want it?" And so he takes these materials. They're basically giving to him free, and then he grinds it up and reuses it and sells it, and he's making money off of people's waste. And then he realizes really quickly that this is a huge business because people don't realize what they're throwing away. And so now it's like, okay, how can I take that waste? As he described, the owner described it as like, I'll go into a factory and they're always showing me what they're doing. And he's like, I'm always looking at what they're throwing away. Like, how can I take what you're throwing away and make it a product? How do I turn that into money? Because you're obviously paying somebody to haul that away. Well, you can pay me less, I'll haul it away, and I'm going to make a product and make money on the back end too. Mm-hmm. And so it was fascinating. There was a lot of interesting jobs. Obviously you have people there that are working on an assortment line or on a big industrial injection molder, or doing manufacturing work. They need employees that can work in a manufacturing setting. But we got to tour their material science lab, and they're doing bend tests, and they're doing tensile tests, and they're doing material science tests and burn tests, and like they're that the three women that were running that lab all had material science degrees from Purdue, and they had one of the lead guy was a PhD student from Purdue. Like there's high-end jobs there. You wouldn't think that they're, that these are highly technical jobs needed, and that's just one small example of a company, that's got these really highly technical jobs locally. So,
is there a way to kind of tie in what they're doing there into what we are doing with our manufacturing programs here? Now, at Walker Career Center, our students are very hands-on. It's not just, theory-based in a classroom. But it sounds like it's even more so. It's kind of amped up a little bit in a site such as what you're describing. Is there a way to connect or bridge the gap between the two?
I think I look at a couple of our programs and definitely see some connections with our engineering program and our precision machine program for sure. There's definitely some job skill sets that we're trying to train for in both of those programs that could potentially lead to some partnership. I definitely, I wish it was, at like Arlington and Shadeland or something, relatively close. I mean, it's 30 minutes on the other side of town, which I know is a barrier for some of our students. And to me, it was like, oh man, if this was 5 minutes down the road, I could put 40 kids here right away, right? Yeah. I mean, so I think that was the only like barrier that I saw and like potential, but there's definitely some ways we can look at that for sure. It was the one unexpected of the four that I was like, wow, this is really cool. I wish I'd have seen this 15 years ago when I was teaching engineering, because we would have done a field trip totally there, because I can remember like talking about tensile testing and trying to get kids to, we would do some tensile testing, would break some materials and understand the stress strain curves of that stuff, and here it is in action. Here it is, they're literally doing this every day as part of their job, and you're like, no, seriously, people do this. There's a reason, and it's like, it blew me away. Like I was like, oh, made me want to go back in the classroom for about 30 seconds.
That's awesome. That sounds like some future potential for a field trip, and some
absolutely
they can see how it works in the real world in a dirty manufacturing warehouse and the different levels of it, and there's a lot of value to that. Yeah. And it's closer than Henry County. That helps.
The sorting part of their manufacturing facility, obviously was dirty, but by the time you get to the new industrial injection mold areas, it's all like pretty state of the art, clean, like high tech. and then you go to their lab, their testing lab, and that is like state of the art, space aged, clean like lab setting. It's pretty impressive. So
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. You had one final site visit as a part of the tie-in experience.
Yeah.
Muscatatic Urban Training Center, the Indiana Army National Guard. Probably it all ties in together, but this is probably the most out of left field compared to what we usually do in the Career Center. We have several students that are a part of the JROTC program, but we don't have a specific program for that. So just tell us a little bit about that experience, kind of one of the more unique sites that you went to.
Yeah, I signed up for this one because obviously we do have JROTC here. It was an ability, a chance to like really get to learn more about the Indiana Army National Guard and see this place that I didn't even know existed in Indiana. Muscatuck is, it's about an hour and a half south of here, and it's an urban training facility. It used to be an old hospital, and in the it's kind of evolved over the years, but today it is used as an urban training center, and literally, we walked down a couple of the different various training areas. It looks like a scene straight out of a movie set, right? You've got, burned out buildings that are used to like simulate burned down buildings. You've got different parking garages that are set up, and one's torn down halfway, and one's, and they've got a bus station, and they've got like, they've got a lake that's flooded, and then they train, rescue attempts on flooded buildings there. You name it, they have a setting. So it was interesting to go down and see what our Indiana Army National Guard, what they're training for, but they also bring in groups from around the world to train there on the various urban settings. One of the things that I learned was right after the country in 9/11 and the change in urban warfare, apparently the Army wasn't really well prepared for urban combat. And this was their response to that. They send a lot of units there to train in the tight quarters of city urban combat. And we got to see a simulation of that. They brought a whole group of soldiers in to do a urban simulation. We were above the action, but it was simulated too. But it was pretty neat to see that. But they take us through all the different training areas and different vehicles that they use. So they took us through all that. But most of the day was spent on like the different careers in the military. Mm-hmm. And the different skills needed for those various careers, and what I walked away thinking was like I literally could name almost every one of the career programs here at the Career Center that has that same career in the Army National Guard, and that's really where I was like, oh well, we do have kids that are in welding, love welding, need welders in the Army National Guard, like it's a direct connection. They can join, they can serve their country, they can also learn and improve their welding skills, right? Maintenance technicians, mechanics, cooks, you name the field. There's even accountants in the Army National Guard. Like, sure. That's what I walked away. I was like, okay, yes, we have every opportunity that we're training kids for here, they're training kids for as well. And so, you definitely have the ability, you can go in and serve your 6 years and walk out with not only service to your country, but the ability to then pay for higher ed if that's something you wanted to do. Or you can stay in for 20 years and make it a career, right? There's definitely that. And what's unique about the Indiana Army National Guard is their ability to like stay at home. The ability to it is a weekend a month, 2 weeks a year kind of service, but it's in your local. I mean, it might be an hour, it might be 2 hour drive from your home, but it's not, it's not in a foreign country for 6 months most of the time. I mean, obviously you do have that, chance of being called to active duty, but,
Right.
That's been once in 25 years. So, I mean, it's, it was really cool to see the different careers in the Army National Guard. I think I better appreciate that now more than ever. Not just the width, but also the breadth. Like, there was just so many different careers that we offer in our high school training that they're also offering. So I think that there's a direct connect. We have recruiters out in this building, all the time.
Right.
And I continue to encourage that. It's a great avenue for many students that aren't sure what the avenue they're looking for is. So this just reinforced really what I had an initial belief, but it really just enforced it even more.
So you've had some time to kind of reflect on this, this tie-in experience on these 5 different site visits. A couple of questions for you as we wrap things up. What was your overall experience? Like, what overall, like, kind of more macro, theory level, what did you gain from this experience? And then more local, how are you able to connect this to your teachers here at the Career Center, making sure that this information gets to the students? How do you see you being able to disperse this experience that you had?
Great question. I think for me, the macro piece was like, get more teachers out of the classroom more. I just felt like that always brings out the best, especially in a career program. I think we do a good job of connecting our career programs to our industry partners through an advisory board, through that connection that's required. But I'm not sure enough of our teachers spend time in those actual businesses day to day, like seeing it. They're all from the industry, and I know they all work there, but it could have been 5 years ago when they actually, could have been 10 years ago when they were actually working as a tech in that field. So it's really important, I think, for me that, like, we continue to push our staff and our teachers to continue to do this. And then I would also encourage that on the macro level. Like, there's not a teacher in Warren Township that doesn't benefit from seeing different industries and seeing how they work, whether that's a 7th grade math teacher or a 12th grade social studies teacher. Like, there's nothing wrong with having those teachers experience work. And I say this because I uniquely hire teachers that come from industry, right? When I hired you, Adam, there is you came from the radio industry, you worked in radio. That's what I was able to hire, because I wanted your professional expertise in radio to come in and teach students. I can teach you how to teach, but I can't teach you how to bring all that radio experience.
Right.
If you think about a traditional teacher, most traditional teachers go to school for high school, 12 years. Then they go to college for 4 years. Then they come back to a school. And they never actually work in a place other than a school. And so they only know school, and they don't know work as it relates to the thousands of other jobs that are out there. And there's a lot more jobs out there than there is, like, teaching, right? It's one job.
Right.
And so I think that experience and multiple experiences helps teachers connect to kids in a way that, we talk about the job skills that we're trying to teach students. It's really, I think, much easier for a teacher to connect job skills when they've been in jobs other than teaching, because teaching is a unique job set. It's a unique environment, but it's not a work environment like many jobs that kids are going to go into. They're not going to, you're not walking onto a floor at a manufacturing facility where, dress is important and safety is important, because, you've got consequences, real consequences for mistakes. And so I think that macro level, I just think every teacher getting out, experiencing other jobs than their own can only help our kids learn employability skills, job skills, the job readiness part of it. At the level of the Career Center here, I'm definitely I've got some ideas for, some partnerships and some job shadowing, and then definitely some definitely a field trip too for for that, and then just continue to push our local industry partners to connect with our programs, and I'm definitely kind of working on an idea of continued professional development in that space where we get more of our teachers out on job shadow type experiences with their advisory board members, to kind of connect more with them at their business, not here, but there, because I think it's not going to hurt our programs to have our teachers in the industry more. So
I completely agree. As a unique role that I have is, like you said, coming from the industry relatively recently. I'm still kind of in the industry, but having been full-time just 5 years ago, I can hear it when the outside teaching perspective, when people say, oh, teachers have it easy, they got summers off, they got this and that. I'm like, now I know that they're how wrong they are. But then when I hear teachers complain about, oh, the classroom and these kids and this and that, I'm like, you don't necessarily want to go back to the industry, because I remember days. So being able to have that empathy for both sides, I think is huge, especially for educators.
Yeah, that's a key point. Just understanding that it's not all it's cracked up to be on both sides. There's this,
and both sides aren't that bad.
No, both sides are great. They're just offer different. Yeah, they're just different. But it's important to know both, I think, and it makes a better student when you can relate and empathize with both sides, for sure.
So one final question for you as we wrap things up here. If you're an educator that is kind of on the fence about this kind of tie-in experience, if you're a more insular director that doesn't like to necessarily get out, or you're a teacher that just kind of likes to be in the building, if somebody's on the fence, or if they're even kind of against the idea of it, what benefits would they get about participating in the tie-in experience?
Well, on top of the 4 cool events that you can sign up for, you can actually sign up for a whole bunch more. I met a teacher that this was her 9th time doing, which is great. She got to really experience a lot of different companies. They've had some really unique tours over the last year, from the airport to the NCAA to IMS to the ones I visited. There's some really cool events. There's also $1,000 stipend for teachers if they do this. If they complete it, they can get a little extra summer money. That's worth a shot, right? Who doesn't love a little extra incentive in their pay bucket? So. That's as well, and then obviously the connections. You're going to make some industry connections that you may be able to use in your classroom. You never know who you meet, or you're usually with a group of 15 to 20 other teachers. Maybe you'll meet somebody there that you can make a connection with to help you down the road. So
it's all about building that network, right?
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like you had an amazing experience. It sounds like we're going to truly benefit from this on the local level here at the Walker Career Center. So appreciate you, Dr. Rogers. Thank you for joining us, and looking forward to seeing all the changes in the future.
I appreciate it, Adam. Thank you so much.